Radio Law Difference wishes a happy birthday to advocate Amber Williams Lyons.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. It's your birthday, hooray. Happy birthday. It's your birthday, hooray. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to showing us the way. You're showing us the way.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and happy Saturday. I am Kimberly Holmes Ross with Evanston Cradle to Career, where we work with over 40 organizations to make Evanston the most equitable place it can be. And we're back. We are back. We have missed you. We hope you had a happy and healthy new year and season, holiday season celebration. We are back, of course, on our favorite platform, Radio La Difference, with our super producer, Mr. Mann. Good morning, Mr. Mann.
Good morning, Kim. It's good to be back. It's great to be back.
It's great to be back. We have a great season in store for you. So we hold on to your seats. We have some great stuff in store. And we are back with only one advocate today, but it only takes one. We are back with our advocate, Amber. Good morning, Amber.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I cannot go another moment. Amber's back on her birthday. So please take a moment in the comments to wish Amber happy birthday. We've been celebrating all morning. We have a Zoom room. So we've been celebrating and singing and dancing. And maybe we'll do it at the end. Mr. Mann will cue up our music so we can sing happy birthday to Amber. Amber, we appreciate you taking time on your birthday to serve your community. That's amazing. Thank you. And our special guest today, we are here with Moms Demand Action in Evanston. Cannot wait to hear about Moms Demand Action in Evanston. I do know that they're the nation's largest grassroots volunteer network fighting for public safety to protect people from gun violence. So what a great cause. And we are lucky enough for them to have a branch here in Evanston. I believe they're back. I think you guys were here at one time. I'm going to let you guys tell the story, but they're back. And they're back here with us to tell us all about it. So welcome. Tell us who you are. Tell us all about Moms Demand Action.
Yes, thank you so much, Kimberly. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, thank you so much, Kimberly and Amber and all of the advocates, and of course, Mr. Mann for having us on today. So happy to be here. And I am Sarah Hines. I am the co-lead for the newly reestablished Moms Demand Action local group in Evanston. And as Kimberly alluded to, there has been a group in Evanston and working with surrounding communities for quite some time. It was actually quite active, and we worked very closely with some of the other very active local groups along the North Shore and our sort of North Chicago colleagues and neighboring communities. And as with many things during the pandemic, some of the folks involved found themselves, overwhelmed and going through huge life changes. And it is a volunteer network. And so some of the folks who had been leading had stepped down, and it just sort of went to seed for a while. I am new-ish to Evanston in Illinois. I moved to Evanston in April of 2020 and have been incredibly proud and happy to establish my roots and my family's roots here. It's been a wild ride. We're happy to be sort of on the other side of the high pandemic years, though who knows if we'll ever truly feel back to normal. But I found myself, like many others, in June of 2022, just absolutely flabbergasted to be sitting at home, doom scrolling through Twitter and various media sources, watching yet another massacre of small children nearly 10 years after the Sandy Hook event that really ushered in the modern era of mass shootings, and simply felt that I think with many others, and Karen can talk a little bit. I'll have Karen introduce herself in a second. These moments, these very public mass shooting events create a lot of interest in organizations like Moms Demand Action, and we have an outpouring of new volunteers and folks who are interested in getting involved. I was very much one of them. And so with a couple of other local women at the time, decided to reestablish an Evanston group, and have learned a ton about what Moms Demand Action is and does. Before I pass it to Karen to talk about her background and the general Illinois sort of chapter, which is incredibly active in one of the largest chapters in the United States, one of the things that has been super critical in my learning and in our work in terms of establishing this group is really leaning into the Moms Demand Action ethos and understanding and messaging that, like, while devastating shootings like what happened in Highland Park and Uvalde and Chesapeake and too many to name in recent memory, receive the national attention and capture our horror. The reality is that many communities in Illinois disproportionately bear the burden of our country's gun violence crisis every single day. And Evanston is no exception here. Gun homicides and assaults disproportionately impact historically undervalued and under-resourced neighborhoods, including Black and Latinx communities. And we see this all over Illinois. And this has become a really guiding part of where we are trying to lead and be cognizant in our work in Evanston in order to authentically represent what gun violence prevention might mean for our community here. So that was a long, rambling introduction, but that's who I am. That's who Moms Demand Action Evanston is. And then I'll pass it to Karen.
Thank you. Sorry about that little sneeze there. Tis the season. Thank you so much for having me. Hello from, I am not in Evanston, but I am born and raised in Highland Park, Illinois. I no longer live there. I am in Northbrook. But I am the outgoing co-lead of the Illinois chapter of Moms Demand Action. We currently have about 30,000 active volunteers in our movement in the state of Illinois. I like to try to play catch up to California, which, as you know, is a much larger state population-wise, but we are right up there as far as the size of our movement and our impact on gun violence prevention. I am just back from Springfield. We were down there, as you may know, earlier this week, trying to help pass a comprehensive bill, the Protect Illinois Communities Act. And one of the things that was so interesting while I was there, of the many, many interesting things that happened in Springfield, Illinois, was hearing one of the opponents of the bill say that this bill is not in the name of racial equity. And listen, there's a lot of work to do on that front, but this was coming from the mouth of an opponent. And then he said, you know, there was a rally earlier today and it was all white suburban moms, and they're not really looking out for Black and brown communities. And I had to pause at that because I'll be honest with you all, as we all know, we have a lot of work to do to make this an equitable movement and to make the impact equitable. But the opposition is not working in our best interest. And that rally that we had in Springfield on Thursday was absolutely the most widespread representative rally that I have seen to date in my work in this movement. And I've been doing this since about 2015. There were people from all over the state. There were people from every kinds of communities. There were young people, older people, survivors, non-survivors. There were rabbis, there were pastors. And this was not just to be tokens. This was truly because we know that gun violence prevention cannot be reduced without all of us having each other's backs. And that rally was anything but just suburban moms. So he clearly was not at the rally. He was just liking to think that we were just suburban moms, which I understand that impression. It is something we're working to overcome, but it is less true every day. It certainly was not true at that rally in Springfield. So I took offense to that because there were young people from from Chicago talking about how they have to live every day with gun violence prevention. And I am at their backs. I am not here to lead this movement for myself. I am here because truly Black and brown communities are our top priority. And I know that's easy for me to say, might sound like self-fulfilling for myself, maybe, not trying to get a cookie here, but truly we've gone too long with mass shootings getting all the attention. And that day has passed. We are not here to do that anymore. And so, yes, while Sarah said that our movement does grow, unfortunately, when there are big public things like Uvalde and Buffalo and Highland Park, we do tend to get increases in our volunteer ranks at those moments. That's not what we are about. We truly are about everyday gun violence as well. So I do want to kind of confirm that, we're working hard as a movement, but our top priority is ending daily gun violence. And this bill, the Protect Illinois Communities Act, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit today, it does ban assault weapons, but it also has other parts in it that are really important to reducing all the different kinds of gun violence that we see in the community and in Evanston. And we have, there have been some people trying to tell us, just get one thing done, get that assault weapons ban done. And I am not here for that. So if you see those headlines saying this is an assault weapons ban bill, it is, but it's also a lot more. And our job when we were in Springfield all day Thursday, we're going back tomorrow to get this across the finish line, is to make sure that we do not sit by while the Senate passes and the legislature passes a bill that is only about assault weapons. We're not here for that. So just wanted to tell you a little bit of that context, and thank you so much for having me. I truly am in this movement because I know that while I have not lost a loved one to gun violence, I know that survivors too often bear a burden that nobody should have to. And that's not okay. We as a society need to be working, one, to lift them up and be at their backs, and to make sure that it doesn't happen to more people.
Absolutely, Karen. And thank you for, acknowledging that. It's not okay. And I'm hoping that our Evanston branch will work hard to make sure that there are Black and brown faces in this movement, not just in Springfield, because we don't all get to see that all the time, but, right here in our community. So we are glad you are on. We are hoping people can find out how to be a part of this. We're going to find out some more about this. I wrote it down, HB 5855. We're going to find out about that. And we're also going to have some questions. First, I want to thank Ms. Wetlow. Of course, she's watching, and she's glad we're back. Thank you, Ms. Wetlow. And Ty, we miss you. We need you back on the air. We'll see you soon. Thank you for watching. And of course, my radio sister, Lisa, is watching. Thank you, Lisa. Please share this video. We're talking with Moms Demand Action Evanston today, and we're talking about gun violence prevention. We need it. Evanston, although small, and you'll say, oh, a few homicides a year, that is alarming anywhere, but our population, it's a very small city. And so it's very disproportionate. And as far as the Black and brown community, it affects us, much more than any other communities in Evanston. So we need to know how do we get involved? What does gun prevention violence look like in Evanston?
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly, for that. I sort of skipped over like what is Moms Demand Action and what do we do. I think probably Moms Demand Action is best known for the work that we do to rally around elected officials and work with them to have more awareness and more action orientation towards gun violence prevention at the legislative level in the United States. And Shannon Watts is the founder. She was an Indiana suburban mom in 2012, who, similar to many of us, was sitting there watching everything unfold with Sandy Hook and just going, what is this? This doesn't make any sense. Like, we have to be able to do more here. And so she started a Facebook group, and that became the largest gun violence prevention movement in the history of the United States. She joined forces with Mayor Mike Bloomberg, former mayor of New York City, who had established a group called Mayors Against Illegal Guns. And Mayor Bloomberg, being a very wealthy individual and very influential individual, combined with Shannon Watts to create the umbrella organization Everytown that now supports, funds research, funds the staffing and volunteer training for the grassroots movement that is Moms Demand Action. So we are probably historically best known for elections and legislative advocacy, and we'll definitely be talking about that because we've been very focused on that for the past 6 months. But some of the things that Karen mentioned, we also do a ton, and each local group is meant to have the flexibility to do whatever they need to define what gun violence prevention looks like in their community. And so a lot of groups work very closely with community organizations who are doing day-to-day work with violence intervention and youth development, and working closely with law enforcement and local mayor's offices to effect change as is authentic to the needs of the locations. And so we are very much invested in that model. And Kimberly, I think you were at our first town hall on November 29th. And I have to say, like, we couldn't have done it without you. You were so instrumental in being sort of our guide to the Evanston community organizations who are doing all of this important work in community violence intervention programs, youth development, safe haven creation for our youth and our underinvested communities through parks and recreation, et cetera. So we're still very young in terms of what we can do in Evanston. We're a loose collection of individuals just defining kind of what this can look like here. And so we need help. And so the way to get involved is reach out to me. I can certainly share my information in the Facebook Live notes. We also do have a Facebook page, and we have a growing sort of email list and interaction program. The other way to get involved, I would be remiss if I didn't say this, is the thing that we as Moms Demand Action are always call to action is text READY, READY, to 64433. And this is super critical. This helps us identify folks with their location and their zip code and all those things and their level of interest in a centralized fashion. And that allows us to be this very responsive grassroots organization. So if you are interested in getting involved, we need so much help and we need your voices. And it is text READY, READY, to 64433, and I will be in touch soon.
Perfect. We're going to put all of that in the comments. We'll make sure it's up on our Facebook page as well. Please put it in our chat, and I'll get Amber to copy and paste that onto our Facebook page as well. I want to give the birthday girl a chance to ask the question or make a comment. and we're going to circle back and make sure we hear from Karen.
Thank you. Thanks again for coming on the show. I think this is an amazing group. And I'm so happy that you went ahead and took the reins and reestablished this group because it's needed. Clearly, the Highland Park shooting was just very alarming, so close to home. We also, we had some issues in Evanston directly with youth bringing guns to schools. During the summer, there was a shooting. And I just know myself, I had a friend gunned down back in, I think I was maybe a freshman in high school. And I just still remember it. It was right across the street from the school. And I mean, it's times when I ride past there and it's something that just sticks in my mind forever. And it does affect our youth. It does affect them mentally as far as, well, do I want to go to school? I'm a mom, I have children. And when we hear about these shootings, you just want to speak with them and make sure that they feel safe. And that's, we don't want them to not feel safe in schools. So I'm definitely on board. I definitely want to know how I can become, an advocate or how I can help in any way. So I will definitely personally be reaching out to you. But I think this is awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Amber. It is awesome. And you guys are on the right track. To do anything in Evanston, you need to partner. You need to partner with the right folks. I think we're the right folks. But there's a lot of folks out here, to partner with. I was so happy that Nate, our student advocate and our youth advisory committee member, able to come and speak his truth about how gun violence affects him. We don't really know because, our teens and young adults don't tell us, how much they're affected by, a shooting. They may not even know the person, but how much it really affects them, our neighbors, our community.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I skipped a little bit and would be remiss if I didn't mention is another big piece of what Everytown and Moms Demand Action does is we have a heavy focus on centering the voices and the experiences of survivors in impacted communities. And there is a program called the Everytown Survivor Fellowship Program, unfortunately, that has growing ranks in Illinois and in our neighboring communities. And what our goal is to provide that platform and center those voices and not make survivors do all the work anymore. For too long, it is people who are directly impacted by gun violence who are expected to do the difficult work of demanding that someone pay attention, demanding that local officials do something about it. And so, for those of us who have not been individually impacted, unfortunately, the group of impacted individuals in Illinois, in Evanston locale, in the United States grows every single day. But it is incumbent upon all of us and as communities to join together and do the work for those who are impacted. So wanted to also just note that survivor voices is a huge part of what we do and what we try to center, and then providing support around the needs of those who are directly impacted.
Excellent. And I have to say that our Evanston churches have always, as far as I can remember, whenever there's been a shooting or an act of violence, have always been out raising awareness and lifting those voices of those survivors and victims. And they've been great about that. So I would definitely encourage you to partner with Evanston Own It and the Interfaith Ministries to continue your work in violence prevention. I just wanted to say that I remember them walking and praying on all these corners in Evanston where these acts of violence happen. So I wanted to lift that up. I want to get back to you, Karen, before we run out of time. And we want to
I was just going to say related to that. So I have been co-leading the state for about 2.5 years with my partner in good trouble, Valerie Burgess, she lives in, well, she was in the Hyde Park area. She just moved recently, but she's in Chicago, and she is a survivor. And I do want to, just mention her. We are both outbound co-leads of the state. Her son, Craig, was killed by gun violence, and Valerie has, she's just worked every day for 3 years, and she's not going anywhere, but we've been co-leading the state. But our incoming co-chapter leads, Sherry Williams and Pastor Brenda Mitchell, will be leading the Illinois chapter. Pastor Brenda is a pastor, and she is a survivor. Her son, Kenneth, who we call with love Ken, because that's what his family and friends called him, was killed by gun violence. One of her sons served in the Middle East with the armed forces, and that was not the son who was killed by a gun. It was the son who was here in the United States, Kenneth. And so Pastor Brenda is an incoming co-lead of the Illinois chapter, and we're in good hands with her and Sherry. She knows what it is to have faith and to lead with faith. And I think you're spot on, right? Like the partnership piece, and the people who know gun violence prevention best are the people on the street corners, in the churches, in the homes. Like that's those, you're right. We can go to Springfield all we want, and Springfield has a lot of power, but I do believe in people power. And I don't just say that because it sounds right. Really, truly, we do have people power. But that people power is only as strong as who's in the room, who's at the table. And, I do want to commend Sarah for stepping up and restarting the local group in Evanston, and knowing that that's hard work to be done, and knowing that there's probably going to be mistakes made, and still doing it anyways, because that's how important it is in this movement. And I also want to add one thing, I think, just from the state level, and kind of as somebody who is hooked into the national movement with Moms Demand Action, one of the things that we try to do is use the resources of a large national movement to have local impact. So Sarah is keeping an ear out for when there is something that she can kind of rally the Moms Demand Action volunteers to be at the backs of local partners. So whether it's having a local partnership like coalition event and asking moms volunteers to just show up and listen, sometimes not even in our red shirts, it might be helping to get the event ready. Like it's not just about us being about us. And I say that without hyperbole. We do have the resources of a national organization that has funding. And so, we certainly aren't, sometimes people like to say we're like, oh, you all are paid protesters. I have never gotten a paycheck for any of this. But, we have data systems. We have, like she said, the ability to text ready to 64433. We have systems like that. And we do have a national kind of brand. And we try to use that to not just be about ourselves, but to get our folks, whoever we are, to show up at things. There are sometimes grants that can be applied for that every town has for local community impact. Sarah and I at the state level and the incoming co-leads have a voice upward to national folks at Moms Demand Action in every town when it comes to raising the importance of things like community violence interruption. Now they're already on that, but we also can speak upward about what the community needs. So all those things I think are really important in our movement as well. And going back to your piece about partnership, that's partly where we can come in is, we're in the room as Moms Demand Action, but sometimes we need to be in the room quietly and silently. And we know that, but we can use our resources.
And I think you said it best that, you need the right people in the room. And in the room this morning, we have Council Member Chrissy Harris. Thank you, Council Member, for joining us. She's my alderman of the 2nd Ward. Always everywhere and right on the pulse of what's going on. So thank you for joining us this morning on Community Coffee. Before we get out, we got about a minute. Tell us a little bit about HB, 5855? I know you're going back down to Springfield, you said tonight. Tell us a little bit about that in a 1-minute spiel.
Yes, so the because it's a very active bill, it's going through the Illinois General Assembly, which is the House and the Senate, literally right now. The numbers are changing. The best way to refer to this is the Protect Illinois Communities Act. And the Protect Illinois Communities Act has a few primary provisions that we believe are incredibly important in moving gun violence prevention forward in Illinois. The first is it bans assault weapons, high capacity magazines that hold 12 or more rounds, and rapid fire conversion devices known as switches. The Chicago Sun-Times did an investigative a report back in October about the rise of these rapid fire conversion devices in everyday gun violence, and found they spoke to an illegal gun trafficker who cited that the inclusion of these kinds of rapid fire conversion devices in a handgun, for example, which basically turns any handgun, any weapon, into a fully automatic machine gun that is designed for mass casualty, it increases the street value of these trafficked firearms by 50%. We also heard in committee testimony a couple of weeks ago from the Cook County Sheriff's Office that the rise of these types of weapons, assault weapons, these rapid conversion devices, and high capacity magazines has just increased an incredible number, and it has a massive impact on gun violence and the impact of gun violence in communities around Illinois. The growth in multi-victim firearm casualties has exploded in the past number of years, primarily relating to the presence of these types of firearms and ammunitions on our streets and in our state. And so a important provision is the banning of all of these things, and the legislative team that has built this has done an incredible job listening to a diversity of communities and their needs to make sure that this is not a Highland Park package of legislation. It is really about listening to what is happening on the streets and in communities.
We're going to be watching. We're going to be listening. Please get back to us. Let us know how everything turns out. We're going to be reaching out for a partnership, I hope, with Evanston Cradle to Career. We'd love to see you as one of those 40 or more partners we talk about every Saturday morning. So we'll be reaching out.
Thank you so much.
To make that happen. And until then, everyone have a safe and happy Saturday. Amber, have a wonderful birthday. And thank you for taking time with us on your birthday. We'll see you everyone. Be sure to tune in. It'll be Martin Luther King Jr.'s weekend, MLK's weekend. So we're going to have some great stuff in store for you. Until then, have a safe Saturday. Thank you.
All right. I want everybody to stay on because we're going to play some music, and I want everybody to stay on because this is your Mr. Man. Thank you.
Okay, we're staying on.
Radio Law Difference wishes a happy birthday to advocate Amber Williams Lyons.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. It's your birthday, hooray. Happy birthday. It's your birthday, hooray. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you again, everybody. Thanks, Mr. Man.
Happy birthday to you, my dear.
Showing us the way. Yeah.
advocates for action on Radio Law Difference. Please tune in again next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another show.
Advocates for action. Show us the way. You show us the way. Action. Advocates. Advocates for action. Show us the way. You're showing us the way. Oh yeah. Advocates for action. Showing us the way. Showing us the way. Advocates for action. Advocates for action. Showing us the way. Showing us the way. You're showing us the way. You're showing us the way. You're showing us the way.